Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. It is, of course, a brand new season, and that means, as always, we got to go through what loadouts are going to be the best to use right now here in Season 5. Honestly, with the Season 5 update, with all the patch notes and whatnot, we didn't really see any major weapon tuning, right? Obviously, we've got our new weapons for Season 5 via the Battle Pass. They're free for everyone. We have some weapons that recently have really sort of risen in their ranks and sort of made their way into the spotlight, being some of the best weapons in the game. And today, we are going over the top 10 best loadouts to be using here in Season 5. So if you enjoy the video at any point, or if you find it helpful, let me know by dropping a like on it. Would be seriously appreciated. Let's go for 4,000 likes on this one. Let's see if we can hit that. And of course, if you are new to the channel, or if you haven't already subscribed, just over 55% of you guys watching aren't already subbed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything going on in COD, news, updates, loadouts, intel, it is all right here. So feel free to subscribe with your notifications turned on. Also, right now, code Immortal is still boosted to 30% off on G Fuel. So if you want to grab a tub, a shaker cup, a starter pack, anything on the G Fuel site, right now you can get that biggest discount by using code Immortal. So we've got our 10 loadouts here. As always, we're going to run through all of these and break down the attachments, why the weapons are as good as they are. But first, let's start here at the bottom with my two regain loadouts. These are probably the least important loadouts in terms of what's going to be overall the best meta. These are meant for if you're, coming back from a gulag, you need a loadout that's going to have ammo and it's going to keep you alive until you can get your next loadout or get back to your old weapons, whatever the case may be. These are simply meant for regaining in game. So the first one's going to be the rifle one. This is the one that I'm using the vast majority of the time. It's in pretty much all the loadout videos. I'm sure you guys are very familiar with this one by now. Combination of the Grau and the Psychov. The Grau is just extremely reliable. It doesn't have the fastest TTK, but it is extremely easy to use. Its damage is relatively decent. It's certainly a competitive weapon despite not having the #1 TTK in the game, right? So this is going to be easy enough to use and be able to get you back into the game. Then the Psychov flat out is just the most consistent and reliable secondary as well. Again, very easy to use. You can max out that SMG ammo, so if you find a sub on the ground you'd rather trade it for, you have fully loaded on that and you're good to go. Let's focus on the perks here real quick because these are a bit different before we get into the attachments. Right now I'm sort of testing out on some of my regain loadouts using that Combat Scout perk, the brand new Combat Scout perk in Perk 3. Of course, in Perk 1 you're going for EOD or double time. I prefer the better movement, so I do opt for double time. In Perk 2 I'm always going for restock so I can keep replenishing my nades. That to me is a big deal, especially on a regain loadout, or after you get your loadout you want to swap to this, then you can keep replenishing your nades throughout the game. That said, if you're a super aggressive player, tempered would not be a bad idea. You get the 2 plates instead of 3, but it'll still make you fully armored. So basically armoring up is just faster. You can get into the action quicker if you have to, dip back, plate up, and then get back into the gunfight. This is also especially good on Rebirth, I would say, but overall, I still feel like Ghost and Restock are going to be the #1 and #2 for any loadout that's not your initial one, where obviously you're going to be using Overkill, as we'll see with the other loadouts. But in Perk 3, I mean, Amped is great, but if you're using a regain loadout, swapping to a pistol already has that amped speed. You don't have to worry about that increased speed. That's really only necessary on an Overkill loadout. So Amped, not super useful on a regain loadout. Combat Scout, though, you might as well use it because nothing else in Perk 3 is even close to being beneficial besides Amped. So you can definitely try this out and see how you like it. Get the little mini wall hacks, basically the legal wall hacks there. Perks and equipment, thermites and stuns, using that on all the loadouts as is. But as far as the Grau attachments go, basic setup here: monolithic suppressor, Archangel barrel, best range and velocity out of those. Commando foregrip for better control, 60 round mags, and of course fully loaded to max out our ammo. And then on the Psychov, again, pretty standard setup that we've been using for several seasons now. Monolithic suppressor to stay off the minimap and to get that better range. The automatic barrel to make the gun super easy to use. The 80 round drums or the 20 round mags, just all preference. Their 80 rounds is just so extra and I love it. The Prizrak grip for better ADS time and a better sprint of fire. And then finally, fully loaded yet again. And then on the sniping regain, it's the same setup with the Psychov perks and equipment. All we're using here though is the car. I'll use this if it's like a very open zone. There's going to be a lot of, fields and whatnot where sniping is going to be the most beneficial. So this isn't what I'm always choosing, but it's there if I need it. Here we're going for monolithic suppressor, 27.6 inch barrel, tac laser, the sniper scope with the cross-thread reticle, and then also fully loaded once more. So those are the two less important setups, but I did want to have that discussion with Combat Scout versus Amped. But getting into the actual 8 loadouts that I'll primarily be using if I'm going for high kill gameplays, if I just want to, fry absolutely everyone in the lobby, this is currently my favorite loadout in the game, the C58 in the OTS-9. OTS-9 got that sort of, not necessarily a buff in the Season 5 update, but a fix where the iron sights are no longer going to sway really awkwardly when you're looking left to right, up, down. Before, it's like they weren't stuck to the weapon. Your sights would actually end up blocking itself, essentially, whenever you'd move around and try and track a player. That is no more. It makes the OTS-9 way easier to use. This thing is already incredibly dominant when it comes to TTK. I believe it's got the best TTK up close in terms of most meta subs, so it's gonna fry. The mobility is great. And of course, we all know about the C58, the icon itself. It's a powerhouse. Not the easiest gun to use in the world. It's got some recoil to it, but after you learn that recoil pattern and master that, you are good to go. This thing is going to fry in medium and long range fights. So for the C58 setup here, we are using agency suppressor and task force barrel, standard stuff there. Field agent grip for better control, the 45 round drum to make it a bit snappier. And then I do also use the 3x optic. I've seen a million questions about what reticle I've been using. It's called Deep Sea. This was from an old Milano bundle that I apparently had from way back when. I'm not sure the exact name, but if you look at the Milano, you'll be able to find it. It sort of mimics a blue dot, but that said, in the Season 5 Battle Pass, there is actually the green dot reticle. Let's go back to it there. Honestly, not the most obtrusive reticle in the world. That could be relatively clean as well in game, but I really do like the sort of dollar store blue dot that I've got going on here. So that's the reticle if you're wondering, and I use that on all the scoped weapons that I use. Anything that's got a 3x or 4x, I'm using that reticle. Then for the OTS, we're running the GRU suppressor, since you pretty much are always doing that on the subs. Task force barrel, the Tiger Team Spotlight. I don't feel like you need a grip here. It's super easy to use. Instead, I go for the VDV fast mag, the 40 round. It doesn't really slow you down on all that much with ADSing, and you obviously reload extremely quick. Then finally, I go for the Serpent Wrap. I just sort of like that snappiness with the aim down sight time. GRU Elastic could be usable, but I don't feel like it's really worth the cons versus the Serpent. Or you could go for something like no stock or skeletal stock if you want some better mobility overall. But this setup, I've been loving. This is probably my new favorite weapon in the game for the time being. Next up, loadout number 2 is consisting of the brand new EM2 rifle, which is close to being the best rifle in the game. It's up there with the C58. I would say that's 1 and 2, and you could sort of flip those depending on preference. This thing is basically just like the C58 though, slow firing, heavy hitting, great for medium and long range fights. Then we've got the Mac 10. The old reliable. I love the Mac 10. The mobility is phenomenal. The TTK isn't what it used to be, but it's still very, very competitive in the current meta, and it's great for rushing around and playing up close in those close quarters engagements. So as far as the EM2 goes here, you're gonna have to level this thing up to make it the best it can possibly be. I go for agency suppressor and task force yet again. I know quite a few people also like to run ranger because it's slightly faster than the task force. You don't have all the mobility cons that the task force offers with ranger, and it'll still increase your velocity and your control some as well. But task force, to me, I mean, I'm not using this as an aggressive weapon. It's my medium and long range weapon for a reason. I don't need the speed. That's why I have the Mac 10 on there. So task force is what I opt for there. Again, we're going field agent. You could go with pretty much any magazine here. 40 round, I feel like makes it a bit snappy. You could go for 50, you're gonna be a bit more bogged down. I wouldn't really recommend the fast mag because the ADS slowdown, so either 40 or 50 would be my recommended there. Then once again, we do have the 3x optic with the Deep Sea reticle. And then on the Mac 10, it's the copy and paste Cold War SMG setup that we've known for months now. Agency suppressor, task force, Tiger Team, 53 round drum, and the Raider stock. You are going to fly and fry with this thing. Next up, we got 2 more weapons that I've been loving, the Krig and of course the CX-9. The CX-9, not the best SMG in the world, definitely not as broken as it was when it first accidentally released into Warzone quite some time ago, but it's still relatively competitive. It's one of the better SMGs. Its mobility is not great because it is a modern warfare weapon, and that's one of the downsides of it, but the rate of fire is fantastic, and so is the damage, so up close it's going to be pretty solid. It also has a bit of range to it too, so you could even use this as sniper support if you wanted to. All around, not the best weapon in the world, not the worst weapon in the world, relatively competitive though in the current meta with that TTK. And the Krig really hasn't changed. It's up there with the C58 and the EM2 as one of the best rifles in the game. It's not going to be as heavy hitting as those, but it is still going to be relatively easy to use, very low recoil, solid TTK. It's going to be great for a more aggressive rifle, and it honestly can hold its own in some close and medium range fights too if you absolutely have to have that out. So for the Krig, we're running agency suppressor, the mil-spec barrel, no underbarrel because it's too easy to use, the 60 round mag, the 3x optic, and instead of an underbarrel, we go for the Raider stock and get some better mobility out of that. Then for the CX-9, this is the setup I like to use. I know quite a few people like to opt for a just basic monolithic suppressor and like maybe the first barrel with no laser or something, but I really like the last barrel here. Get that built-in suppression, better range and velocity, the 5mm laser for a better sprint to fire and better hip fire accuracy, the 50 round drums, slot of hand for an insanely fast reload, then also the FR stock for better mobility as well. Then after that, we've got another very consistent setup. It's the Fara and the Modern Warfare MP5, 2 weapons that you really can't go wrong with right now. The Fara is a laser beam if there ever was one. The recoil is so easy to counter. It's next to nothing, and it can fry at any range because of that. Its TTK also extremely competitive in the current meta. And the Modern Warfare MP5 has been ultra reliable since day one. There's a rumor that this could be getting nerfed in the next weapon tuning update pretty severely, so use it while it's still good. As of right now, it's the best Modern Warfare SMG by a mile and one of the better SMGs in the game, right behind the OTS-9. So like I said, very consistent setup here. On the Fara or Fara, whatever you want to call it, we're going for Grew Suppressor, the RPK barrel, the Spetsnaz grip to really flatten out any recoil it does have, the 60 round mag, then once again the 3x optic. And on the Modern Warfare MP5, you guys know this setup like it's the back of your hand at this point, I'm sure. Monolithic integral suppressor, Merc foregrip, 45 round mag, sleight of hand in the collapsible stock. You could always swap out like sleight of hand for the 5mm laser if you wanted to, or even the Stippy Grippy. Sort of comes down to preference there. Now after that, we've got another new weapon in this loadout. The first one, the main primary here, is going to be the Amax, because this thing is still a very good rifle even after the several nerfs that it's undergone. If you're hitting 1 to 2 headshots, it's still going to have a great TTK at range. We're pairing this with the brand new Tec-9, a very interesting SMG just because it's so unique. It is semi-auto by default, so you're gonna have to single tap it, which makes it very hard to use. If you have a good trigger finger, or if you can spam your mouse, the single fire mode on this Tec-9 is gonna be very, very lethal, especially when used as an SMG. So if you can master that semi-auto version of it, you're gonna fry. It is one of the better SMGs in the game. If you want to put on the 3-round burst, it makes it a bit more awkward, but a lot easier to use versus the semi-auto. And then personally, what I see most people doing is making it fully auto, making it the easiest to use. And in that aspect, it's still one of the more competitive SMGs in terms of TTK and damage output. As far as the Amax goes, I don't really have to say anything here. This is the same setup that we've known for quite some time. Monolithic suppressor, Zodiac barrel, either the Commando foregrip or the TAC laser, the 45 round mags, then also the VLK 3x with the T-pose reticle. Then for the Tec-9, I'm sort of going for like my standard Cold War SMG setup. The fully auto repeater is going to make it fully auto, and it says it gives you position concealment, which I believe is suppression. Kind of weird how they word that, but regardless, you want the fully auto on there. Even if it doesn't suppress you, that's going to be the easiest way to go about using the Tec-9. We go for the Task Force barrel, the Tiger Team Spotlight, the 48 round mag. I don't feel like you need the fast mag. It's going to slow down your ADS and make it less aggressive. Then finally, you could go for an underbarrel if you really wanted to, like the Bruiser grip. You could go for something like the speed tip and get a better ADS, or you can go for no stock or the Raider stock. I don't have that one unlocked yet because it's not absolutely vital, right? But either last stock or no stock is going to be the go-to for that 5th and final attachment, in my personal opinion. All around though, pretty much the basic copy and paste Cold War setup. Now loadout number 8 is sort of an experimental one. It's the Cold War AK-47 and the Modern Warfare MP7. The MP7 has really risen up in rank recently because of all the other SMG nerfs that we've seen, specifically to some of the Cold War weapons. The TTK on the MP7 is now actually very, very good across all ranges. Up close, definitely is competitive, but it does lack that mobility that some of the Cold War subs have. But especially in medium range fights, the MP7 is actually surprisingly good and probably the best sniper support option right now. I'll actually recommend this with any like sniper you want to use as well later on into the loadouts. But I like to try this out with some of the rifles as well, just to have like a cool secondary that's not the same thing every single game, right? So it's definitely one of the better SMGs. And the Cold War AK-47 just hits like a truck, right? I had to say it at least once in this video. This thing is a powerhouse. It's not super easy to use because of the recoil, but if you can get that down, if you can land your shots with this thing, it's gonna be worth it, because this thing is gonna just hit so hard at any kind of range, close, medium, long. It's a beast all around. Here we're going for the long range though. We're going for Grew Suppressor, the RPK barrel, the Spetsnaz grip, the 60 round mags, and the 3x optic yet again. Then on the MP7, same old, monolithic suppressor, recon barrel for better range and control, tac laser for better speed and stability, 60 round mags, and the icon, the Stippy Grippy. Now loadout number 9 is especially an experimental one, primarily because these are weapons that I don't really like to use all that much, but I can't deny the fact that they are good. On paper, their stats line up with other meta weapons in the game, so I can't go without mentioning these. QBZ and Bullfrog for this pair. The QBZ is very similar to the Krig in a lot of ways. It doesn't feel right to me in game. It has that weird bounce when you're shooting. It just feels clunky. I don't like it, but if you do, it is good in game. It's good on paper, like all around it can actually compete. And the Bullfrog is still one of the better SMGs. Great mobility. You really got to land headshots here to make it viable and to make it competitive, but if you can do that, it is going to definitely pay off in game. It's going to be a great secondary option. For the QBZ, basic rifle setup, agency suppressor, task force, field agent grip, 45 round drum, and the 3x optic. And on the Bullfrog, it's pretty much the standard setup, but you don't need a magazine here. So instead we go for the skeletal stock and bruiser grip alongside Tiger Team, task force, and the Grew Suppressor as well. And then the final setup here is going to be my main sniping setup if I want to snipe off the rip. I'm going for the Swiss because lately it just feels so much better than the car. We're building it pretty similar to the car. We're going for Grew Suppressor and combat recon for the best range and velocity. The 5mm laser is essentially the tac laser. I go for the bruiser grip. It does help out with movement, then also aiming stability. I like the default just sniper scope that it's got, so I go ahead and I rock that. Then I also go for the airborne elastic wrap for a better ADS time. You don't need a mag here because the reload is already super fast. Stocks don't really do you much good here. So all around, it's a pretty easy build and a great sniper rifle when it comes down to it. And for the secondary, you can kind of go for whatever you like. I like the Mac 10 here because it's got that good mobility and I can use that as a rotation weapon, and it's great for CQB fights. However, like I said, the MP7 is probably the best SMG for sniper support. Its mobility is not as good as the Mac 10s, which I sort of prefer in this situation, but it really just comes down to preference, what you want to run with that. And obviously on all these loadouts, I'm running amped because I do like that faster weapon swap. So having that when you're using two primaries, I still feel like is going to be the go-to in Perk 3. Other than that, though, it's pretty much your standard stuff for all the perks and equipment and everything going on there. So yeah, those are the best loadouts to be using here in Season 5. Of course, as we see new weapon tuning come and go, we're going to see different weapons, brought into the meta, some removed from the meta. We'll be covering all of that in the future. But if you enjoyed this video or if it helped you out, let me know by dropping a like on it. Would be seriously appreciated. And of course, if you are new to the channel or if you haven't already subscribed, I am always covering everything going on in COD, news, updates, loadouts, intel. It is all right here. So feel free to subscribe with your notifications turned on. Once again, and as always, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I will catch you guys later. Peace out.